How's it going, guys? Seafoods, and today we're going to be talking about Ford Focus ST mods that you can do for this car. This is pretty much in a list of seriously everything that you can do to this car. I'm going to go over, I'm going to explain the mods. I'm not going to go into too much detail about them. I'm just going to skim over them, tell you what it does, um, and tell you if I have it on my car or not, and just tell you brands and stuff like that, who I know makes good stuff, and yeah. So anyway, to start it off, let's start off with the cosmetic stuff in this list. Everything in this video will be timestamped, so if you just scroll below and you don't want to look at the cosmetic stuff, or you don't want to look at the suspension stuff, and you just want to look at like, okay, what can I do to my motor? Just skip to the motor part, or just skip to the transmission part. There's going to be a bunch of different parts, and then also at the end of this, I'm going to go through and put all these mods in a list together. That separates them all from like stage 1 to stage 5, what I think you should do at each stage. This is just personal opinion. But starting off with cosmetic, you have a crash bar. After that, you got wing risers, front splitter, tint, wheels, rear windshield wiper delete. Honestly, I'm going to be honest with this one. I don't know why anyone would do this upgrade, because I like to be able to see out the rear windshield. So I don't really get the purpose of that one, but it's a thing. Side skirts, rear diffusers, only for facelifted models. So the pre-facelift models don't really have a good diffuser for them. Headlights and taillights, there's a whole bunch of different options that you can pick from on those. Yeah, other than that, there's not really a whole bunch of stuff. Well, there obviously is. There's like other things. You could get mud flaps. You could get um I think there's like, they got these little, you can get an RS style wing. They got these little things, shorty antenna. There's something else that I'm forgetting right now. Anyway, let's move on to the interior. There's a whole bunch of different stuff that you could do to your interior, such as like switching the seats out from, if you have the cloth ones, getting the leather ones, or putting a roll cage in, or putting the harness straps in. Just, I mean, whatever this is, but this is just like your basic three things in my opinion. It's a weighted shift knob, and then with that weighted shift knob, get the reverse lockout with it to make it look good, and then a radar. And other than that, like, there's not a whole lot. I think tint, you know what I mean, obviously, but that was on cosmetic. But other than that, there's not really a whole lot to do for your interior, other than just like little things that you would like to tweak. There are things online, you just have to find them. But yeah. Next up is suspension. Tires are a personal choice, for sure. I know that Toyos are really loud. I've ran Toyo, not the triple eights, the sports, the Toyo Proxy Sports. I ran those for 15,000 miles, and I completely burned through them in 15,000 miles. And I wasn't really too hard on the car either. I mean, I was pushing it, you know what I mean, but I wasn't sitting there doing fucking burnouts at the lights. So I don't really know why I blew these out so fast. My alignment is good on the car, so maybe Toyos are just poop. I don't know. I didn't really like the Toyos anyway. I'm running Michelin Sports right now. They don't grip as well as the Toyos did, but they just like the road noise and all that stuff, and the ride quality is just better with the Proxies, in my opinion. I mean, not with the Proxies, with the Pilot Sports. But there are like the Nitto G, the 555s, and, or I think they're G2 555s, whatever those ones are. Those are pretty sweet. I wanted to try those on the car. I think that's the next set I'm gonna get. And then, I mean, there's some other ones that you can just get, like other just knockoff brands. But tires are definitely just like, you're gonna. I've ran Continentals on my previous car, and they were okay. My previous car wasn't anything cool. So I mean, tires, you're just gonna have to try them all to figure out which one you like. Because some tires do things better than other ones. So if you could just figure out which one you like the most, that's what I would say for tires. Coils or lowering springs. Coils, if you want to slam the car, or if you want it. Well, I mean, that's really, I mean, in my opinion, dude, coils, the only reason why you would get coils is to slam the car. Or if you want to try to make the ride height perfect, I guess you could get coils. But coils, to me, they make the ride quality poop. And so it's like, I mean, if you already, like, I mean, no Focus out there, dude, is less than 15 grand right now. So let's be honest. I mean, I don't really want my $15,000 car feeling like like it's a Honda Civic. You know what I'm saying? So in my opinion, the lowering springs are a way better choice. Whiteline makes some really good ones if you do have like a lot of mods done to your engine, because when you do start removing things out of your engine bay, such as like your crash bar and your grill shutters and the balance shaft, and and I mean, there's just a bunch of other things, like if you do a battery relocate, all that kind of stuff, it just reduces weight out of your engine bay, and so your front actually lifts up a little bit more than your rear does. And Whiteline makes a lowering springs for this car that fix that issue. It's just their normal springs that they have for the car, but yeah, Whiteline. Bags are just like, if you're all about cosmetic and you're just in it for the blow off valve, and you get like a little intercooler, and you got the wing riser and the diffuser, and it's slammed, or well, not slammed, but and if you just like, if you want that like spicy boy, you know what I'm saying, the bags are your move. Bags are just purely cosmetic in my opinion. I know that people use bags for racing, but it's like, in my opinion, you might as well just get coils or lowering springs. But bags, if you want to, yeah, if you just want a ball, I mean, it's $5,000 for a major, or like for a really nice setup in the car, it's $5,000. I mean, of course you can get the $1,000 or the $2,000 setups for this car, but it's like, if you're gonna spend that much money in the first place, you might as, I mean, you want to get a nice system. So it's like, spending $2,000 on like a hunk system just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So in my opinion, lowering springs are just a way better move, unless you have like a Lamborghini where bags are the move. But anti-roll bars, these reduce like body roll in the car. They help a lot. They, in the Whiteline package, so the lowering springs, the anti-roll bars, and the rear and front end links, you can actually get that all in a package from Whiteline. And Whiteline does make good products. I know that like Ebok or Abok, or I don't even know how to say it, they make them, and then there's like a couple other companies that actually make them. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head who else makes them. But they do help with body roll. And then on the last one, it's other parts, do your own research. It's like, for the rear suspension in this car, they have like camber arms and upper control arms. I think the camber arms and the upper control arms are the same thing, but then they have like toe arms, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't really know all the other stuff. I'm not a big suspension guy, so I couldn't actually tell you all the stuff, but I do know that they make a bunch of stuff for the suspension for this car. Way more parts for the rear than there is for the front, but there's stuff. Next up is the braking. Not a lot to say about this other than the braking deflector reduces your braking temps by probably 20 degrees, and Boomba makes it. It's a pretty cool part for $100. It's a nice little. It makes your braking a little bit cooler. You know what I mean? But also you can upgrade your bigger front brakes, and you can also upgrade your rear brakes. You really just want to do this if you're making a track car, because otherwise it doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, it's $1,000 upgrade on the car, and so if you want the bigger rotor, if you want the bigger caliper, and it is going to look better, and they do come powder coated, so it does make sense, but it is $1,000. And then also, if you guys are going to upgrade your brakes, get the braided brake lines, because it's like $35 a line. And if you're already going to be spending $900 on some new braking setup, you might as well just buy it, because it's just going to make the lines, just make sure they're not going to break. You know what I mean? It's an easy upgrade that you're doing in there. Next up is like the air stuff. So on here, we're just going to talk about like air intake, all that other kind of stuff. The two things that I did forget on this list, on the air list, are downpipe and exhaust. I should have put those on here, but I don't know why I didn't. But the downpipe and the exhaust are they're very like user preferred. You know what I mean? Like, if you want a car that's high pitch and raspy, then you go with the catless downpipe, and then catless downpipe with a straight with just a pipe back. You know what I mean? So turbo out. But if you want that little bit of a deeper tone, then you go with the high flow cat in your downpipe. Like right now, I'm running the Cobb downpipe, and it sounds phenomenal. Like, the downpipe sounds great. It gives a nice little pops in it. You know what I mean? Every once in a while, but I've ran a catless downpipe on my car. And it shakes the car a little bit more, and it just makes the exhaust note not as likable. I don't really know how else to explain it other than that. But if you do just want that loud loud ass car, then catless is all the way on the downpipe. Exhaust system, that's just purely up to anybody, like what you want to do. There's probably 20 different people who make exhaust systems for the Focus, and they all sound different. So just go on YouTube and look up different exhausts that they have, and there'll be a video of everything, every one of the exhausts on the internet. I'm sure of it. So yeah. Other than that, let's start with the air though. Air intake. This is like just like a normal air intake. I know that people spend like $800 on an air intake for this car because Cobb makes one that's carbon fiber, and I think that you're kind of crazy to do that because Cobb also makes this really nice metal one for half the price. And well, I mean, you could probably find one even cheaper than that, but they're all like $250. But Cobb makes one for, I think it was like $325 I spent on or something. And it's a nice piece, and you don't need to get that carbon fiber unless that's the look you're going for in the engine bay. I wouldn't spend the $700 on that. There's a couple other companies that make intakes, but that's about it for that. Snorkel. This is like a cheap mod that you can get for your car. I know that on Alibaba you can get them. Not Alibaba, AliExpress, you can get them for like $25 shipped, and it's a great little mod. It's 2 bolts and it hooks right up, and it lets the air come into the whatever you call it, the air box, and just make sure that you always have cold air in your air box because it just sucks it up right from the grill. After that, it's like intercooler and intercooler piping. Intercoolers are just watch the size compared to turbo. Like, I know that CPE makes a giant Delta core. Like, I mean, it's huge compared to any other intercooler on the market right now. And I know that stock turbo, you're going to have a little bit more lag through that system just because of how much more air is trying to be pushed through the already insanely long intercooler piping that this car already has. So just the bigger intercooler, the more spool time you're going to have, right? Because you got to push more air. And then blow off valve, because you're going to get that with your intercooler piping. If you want the chirpiness, like if you just want one that just like chirps up top, I'd go with tile. But if you want one that goes whoosh, you know what I mean? That like every time that you get up like 2 pounds of boost, it sounds like you were just flooring it. Go with Boomba or the HKS. I would definitely, if I were you guys, I would definitely find a blow-off valve with an adjustable boost pressure thing on it, because otherwise when it chirps at 2 pounds on the HKS or the Boomba, it literally sounds like you were just flooring it. So blow-off valve is definitely personal choice. Again, there's a bunch of videos online that talk about blow-off valves. You can also get a blow-off valve delete. You don't have to run a blow-off valve. Next up is turbo. Turbo, there's more to talk about on turbos than there is anything probably on this list, but I'm going to just try to keep it simple. I mean, with turbo size, you really have to be worried about what you want your car to be, how you want your car to be running, because it's like if you just want a car where you can throw a big turbo in it and you throw it on coils and you just want it to look good and you got the crazy blow-off valve like I was just saying on all that other stuff, and you want your car to actually just be a little bit faster, I would just throw a 2867R on your car and call it a day, because with that turbo you can max out your fueling and get up to around 360 horsepower up there with that turbo setup. And so if that's all you want, you don't want to fuck with your fueling because fueling is expensive, but if you don't want to fuck with your fueling, you don't want to do all that other stuff, you can totally just you can get either a G25 660 or a G30 660. So if you want a G25 660, that's going to put you right around 450 to 750 wheel, while the G30 660 is going to put you right around 550 575 wheel before you start running into limitations on your low pressure fuel pump. So there's a bunch of other turbos like right in the middle. If for like 400, like you can probably go with a 3076 and you'll probably be pushing around 440, 450, somewhere in there. I'm sure that people have made more power off that turbo setup. It really just depends on all your other supporting mods, but Yeah, after that, after your turbo, you're gonna have to get a turbo dump tube and a wastegate with it. It's like another $500 already on top of the turbo, so it's pretty stupid. So if you already have to expect to spend $2,500 on a turbo, just know you're gonna have to spend at least another $600 on that turbo dump and wastegate setup, which is completely stupid to me. But next up is this intake manifold spacer and throttle body spacer. These two mods for me, I would say, are my number one mods for anybody that's wanting to increase just like drivability of their car. These two mods just make it so then there's a little bit more airflow through the head, and it just makes it so in your lower RPMs when you step on the gas, the car doesn't actually like let's just say at 2500 RPM, you step on the gas, the car is actually going to want to stutter a little bit before it's actually going to start wanting to go, just because you have your turbo spool up and all that other stuff. But when you add these spacers and all this, it actually just makes that it not at 2500 RPMs not like want to jump around as much or stutter as much. It's a nice smooth build into boost rather than it being choppy into boost. That's kind of all I can say about that. Those are great products. I mean, for the $200 you're gonna have to spend on both of those together, I mean, it's totally worth it. After that, intake manifold. This one's just really when you don't have anything left on your car to do, and it's just like that last thing. It's like $900, $1,000 to get one of them, and it's just like, in my opinion, it's not really worth it unless you don't have anything else to do to your car, and your limitations are your airflow to your head. Then then an intake manifold makes sense. But other than that, it doesn't really do anything. A Symposer delete, this for $30. It just makes it inside the car. It just like it takes the way it runs is it runs off your intake manifold and then diverts into the car, because then you can hear the whooshing sounds just like a little bit more. It makes it feel like more of like a I don't really you just have to get it. It's $30. It's a great mod for your car. It makes the car sound a lot better. Only inside the car, not outside the car, but inside the car it makes the car sound way better. And then after that, you got to get a 4-bar map sensor. I should have put this next to the turbo and the wastegate dump tube, but I don't remember if you have to get. I think you only have to get one, but I could be wrong, and you need to get 2 of these 4-bar map sensors, and it just makes it so then the computers, so like when you take it to a tuner, they can actually tune it, because then they know how much boost is running through the system. 4 bars is like, I think that 1 bar is, it's like 13 or 14 pounds, or maybe it's 12. It's somewhere right there. So do the math. It's like 50 some odd pounds of boost. Sorry, I need to take a drink. Next up is like coil packs and sparks. Coil packs and the sparks. This is just a pretty easy upgrade to do. You just replace the sparks, get them a step colder always, and then coil packs you just throw right on top. MDS makes a pair, and I know that there's a couple other companies that make coil packs, and they're all pretty good. So coil packs are just they're nice to have in your car. You can get them colorful and shit too. So, but after that you have like cams and springs and valves. And for the cams, I see the reasoning for like the other stages, like 1, 2, 3, but in my opinion, I would only get stage 3 cams or 4. The stage 4 Piper cams are harder to find, but you can find them. But they like Edge Autosports only sells the Ultimate Roads or whatever, and I think that's stage 3, and so in my opinion, stage 3 cams. If you're gonna be doing cams though, you're probably have something else going on. So if you're taking off your head, I would do your springs and your valves. The springs for sure if you're gonna be doing cams. If you're gonna be doing any stage of cam, I would definitely be putting new springs in, just because in the Focus there's valve float when you get up into the higher RPMs, such as like 6,500 to like 73, 74. On the stock head, the springs are super soft, and so you get valve float, and that's how you bend some valves. So don't do that. Get some new springs when you get new cams for sure. Don't mess up on that. And then valves, I think there might be like 2 or 3 companies that make stuff for valves. I know that I have SuperTechs in my car, and they look phenomenal. So After that, buckets. This I just put this on here because I don't think that this is something that's talked enough about on the Focus. The buckets that sit right, so they're camshaft followers is actually what they're called. But there's these little buckets that sit over the top of the valve springs in the car, and they what they do is they make it so when the camshaft lobe spins over on top, it pushes, instead of pushing on the spring, it pushes on this cap, and it compresses it, right? And so anyway, when you do your clearances for your camshafts, you have to stick like a little feeler gauge in between where the camshaft, so if the camshaft lobe needs to be pointed directly up, and then you stick a feeler gauge in between the spring, or where the bucket is, and the camshaft, and it has to be perfect. So if you guys go watch one of my other videos on how to do the buckets, like how to get proper clearance on your buckets, go watch that video, and then you can go online and you can go find all the perfect sizes. What this does when you get these perfectly sized buckets is it makes it so then it doesn't it like when the Focus ST motor runs, if you put your head near it, or sometimes it's really loud, you'll hear ticking. It's like a tick 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 with this car, and what it is it's that camshaft banging on top of the camshaft follower, and so, or the bucket. And when you get proper clearance size ones, it makes it so then it's not loud, or makes the head quieter. Next up is pistons and rods. This one I'm just gonna say only if you blow your motor, it makes sense. Otherwise, it's just a really expensive job. In my case though, I don't know a lot about building like motors, like building the bottom end of motors. Like I can figure out how to do the camshafts and the timing and all that shit like that, but I don't know how to do the proper clearances on the rods and the with the crankshaft and the pistons and the rings and all that shit. I don't get it. You know, I haven't done, it's not that I don't get it, I just haven't done enough research into it yet to understand it. And so for me, it would be easier to just take my motor to somebody and have them completely rebuild it and then get it back and throw it back in my car. But that is it's a big job to do that. It's not just like, it's not this plug and play job that some people think it is. It's a very complicated job to get your pistons and rods done in this car. Only reason why I'm saying that is I have a friend that he's like, I'm gonna get the access port, and then the next mod is pistons and rods, and it's just like, you're out of your mind. Anyway, next up is balance shaft delete. Balance shaft delete just makes it so there's on your crankshaft there's like this little gear thing, and then in the bottom of your car is your balance shaft, and then that thing spins the little thing down below, and it's just like this chunk of metal to hold your motor from vibrating so much. You can buy this like $30 piece, and it just deletes like 18 pounds of metal out of your motor. So it really doesn't actually increase that much vibration in your car. It like a little bit, like when you get up in like the higher RPMs, you can feel it like a little bit more, you know what I'm saying? But that's about it. Next up is like a radiator tank, and this one's just like, it's more of like a cosmetic thing to do for your car. You don't really need to do it. I mean, it's going to give you like a little bit more volume inside the container, but that's about it for the radiator tank. Next up on the oil pan baffle, this one's just an easy one. If you're going in to do your balance shaft delete, you might as well just do this one too. You can actually buy both of these parts in a package together, because all you have to do is take your oil pan off, and you just get the balance shaft done and the oil pan. And I mean, that's really about it for that. It holds the oil in place, so then like if you're on the track, the oil isn't sloshing around everywhere, and then you run into oil starvation issues, none of that kind of shit. So just makes it so then you don't run into those issues. Next up is the catch cans, one for the crankcase and one for the PCV valve. These just remove oil that's like in like oil in your intake, or I mean oil in your PCV valve, or like oil in your crankcase. So like the steam off the oil, it collects that kind of stuff and just puts it into a can and makes it so then you don't have issues throughout your car, like you don't have too much pressure in your crankcase and shit like that. So that's what that does. Lightweight harmonic balancer. This is a really good mod if anybody could find it. Boomba used to make it for this car, but I don't know why they stopped making it. I'm probably gonna guess just because of how probably because they've probably blown a couple people's motors up from it, just because the harmonic balancer holds the timing in place for this car. Like it's what holds that little, like, there's like a little gear spline that sits off your crankshaft, and that's what holds your timing and your oil in check, and then your harmonic balancer like pushes it all together and holds it in place. So I'm guessing that they might have had issues with it there, and that's why they don't sell it anymore, or maybe not enough people are buying it. I don't know. But with that, all that does is just makes it so then there's less rotating mass on your crankshaft to make it spin faster, kind of like that balance shaft lead too. So just faster revs with both of those. Next up is a PCV baffle. So in the PCV baffle, in the stock one in the car, it actually leaks boost. Like it leaks like 1 or 2 pounds of boost, and they're stock. Like it in every car. It's not just something that happens in one car, it's in every car. And so you can actually just buy one on Edge Auto Sport for like $150 or something, and it's made by Radium, so it's a really nice product, and it goes right underneath your injectors. It's right on the front of your motor. It's an easy upgrade and it just makes it so you're not losing boost pressure. Next up is the radiator upgrade. This one is just like if you're on a track and you're having issues, like if you're running hour-long track sessions and you have you're just you know what I'm saying. Your coolant temps are getting too high. You need to upgrade your radiator so then you can keep your coolant temperatures down and all that kind of stuff. Next up is oil cooler. Oil coolers are really cool if you need them for track stuff. Other than that, I mean, because the oil cooler makes it look really cool in the front of the car. The only reason why you would have an oil cooler though is because you're running it on the track, because otherwise the oil cooler is actually going to cool down your oil too much, and it actually makes your car it won't make your car run right, because when you have your oil's supposed to be at an operating temperature, right? So like on your thing, it's supposed to be sitting right in the middle of your thing, because that's the operating temperature of the oil. You don't want it too low, because otherwise the oil doesn't actually have enough elasticity to it to be able to move around in the motor and fix all that kind of stuff. So you don't want your oil too cold so I mean, that's the same thing. Oil cooler and the radiator upgrade, you only need them if your car is running too hot already because you're running a track car. Rear motor mount, driver side motor mount, and passenger side motor mount. I'm just gonna talk about all these in one. I have the 70As. I have all CPE motor mounts in my car. I know that there's like 4 different companies that make a motor mount for each one of these, but in my car I run CPE, and I know that the 70A, so the plastic that they use in their car, it's rough. Like they have a 55 or a 70, and the 55 is supposed to be smoother, dude, but I have the 70s in mine, and it makes the car run like it shakes the whole car. So just know that when you go to buy those, that if you want your whole car to shake, like it literally shakes. Like you have to put stuff up in your dash to make it from your dash not hitting your windshield and like having an annoying tick all the time. Like it's those 70A motor mounts, man, they're no joke. I would go with 55, but your motor mounts are definitely a good upgrade on this car. It just makes your car feel so much more responsive, and it reduces wheel hop as well, so you don't have as much, like your wheels don't shake around. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but if you're at a light and you drop the clutch, your wheels will just jump up and down if you don't have enough power, right? It's just called wheel hop. So anyway, and then a strut bar, pretty obvious. This runs right underneath your cowling underneath your windshield, kind of ish. Next up is fuel. On this, you can either go with the 2-port or the 4-port. In my opinion, there's literally no reason to go 2-port before you go 4-port. Just go 4-port and then worry about the 2-port when you're at like 700 horsepower and you're maxing everything out with your fuel, and that's about it. You know what I mean? 4-port is it's your better choice. It's $500 more to double the performance of your car. It's your injectors are right over the top of your valves. They clean your valves. It makes your valves cleaner. But the one disadvantage to port injection is that if any of your electrical wiring gets messed up, it's the only way that you're going to figure out is when it's too late. And so that's the issue with 4-port, is like sometimes the wires will just go bad, you know what I mean? Or they'll get corroded, and then they'll stop working, and then all of a sudden it's too late, and then you figure out that one of your wires went bad. So that is one of the negative sides of port injection. So take it how you will. But surge tank port injection and surge tank direct injection, they're two different options. I'm not entirely sure if you can run them together. Like if you wanted one that was just going to feed your high pressure fuel pump and your direct injection injectors, I don't know if you can do that, and then also run one that would like run a 4-port and the 2-port together. You could do that. I'm gonna guess that you probably could. Don't know why you couldn't, but surge tank is kind of like the 2-port and the low pressure fuel pump that we'll get into. But it's kind of just only there if you need it and you're pushing over, say, 550, 600 wheel. It's like the only time that you're going to need to upgrade any of that stuff. So it's kind of just like way down the road and you don't really have to worry about it. But so in my opinion, if I was going to upgrade the fuel system myself and I was like, okay, where am I going to start with the fueling, right? Where I would start is right here with the high pressure fuel pump. I would get the high pressure fuel pump. Extreme DI makes one. I would start with your high pressure fuel pump. It's going to make it so then it opens up your how much fuel you can flow through your motor. It's going to give you access to be able to run full E85 if you get the Evo or the 61. I don't get the 35. The 35 and the Evo, for the $200 difference, get the Evo one. The other one, it just doesn't. There's not enough. There's definitely the performance gain, but you can't run like ethanol blends on it as well. So I would just get the Evo or the 60, but the 60 is way more expensive than the Evo. So anyway, after I would go high pressure fuel pump, I would start to look at either 4-port or direct injection, upgrading the direct injection injectors. The one upside to the direct injection injectors is that it's plug and play, and you're not going to have to worry about some electrical thing going bad like you do on the 4-port. I should have said this before, but that's what makes these direct injection injectors worth it or desirable, because it's just you don't have to worry about them going bad. Well, on the 4-port or the 2-port, you have to worry about one of your wires getting corroded or something. It's not really like that big of an issue, but like it's like if it's already there in the back of your head, it's like Murphy's Law, you know. It's just so yeah. And then yeah, I mean that's about it. I know for the low pressure fuel pump, this is only if you're pushing over 550 wheel. Stratified is going to come out with a kit for the low pressure fuel pump to just be able to plug and play, because right now you have to go through and you have to like take out your old one, and then you have to replace the pump, and then you have to solder some lines. So Stratified is coming out with a kit right now for that, so then you don't have to deal with it, so you can make your car over 550 wheel. Next up, transmission. The transmission is actually got a bunch of stuff that you can do to it, but a lot of it's just like easy things or simple things or harder things. I don't know. You'll see. So clutch, I would only go with Clutch Masters or ACT. Spec and South Bend, I have heard negative things about. I just wouldn't really. If you look on like the forums online and stuff, you can totally tell a difference between like customer satisfaction. As crazy as it sounds, but like just go on focusst.org and look up South Bend or ACT or Spec or Clutch Masters. It's just like everybody's having the issues with the South Bend or the Spec. So in my opinion, it only makes sense to go with the ACT. I had a ACT Stage 2 on my car, and I just replaced it with a ACT 6 puck. So I still have my Stage 2, and it's actually still a good clutch. So if anybody wants to buy it, hit me up. Just kidding. But I have it, and the 6 puck actually works great from ACT. A lot of people say it's so hard to drive. I think that they're kind of just shit at driving. So yeah, 6 puck is sick. Flywheel. Go with the lightweight flywheel. Again, same thing. Spec makes one. South Bend makes one. Clutch Masters makes one. ACT makes one. if you want to spend the check and you want the nicest shit you can get for this car, go with Clutch Masters. They make a dual clutch for this car and a sick ass lightweight flywheel for this car. So if you want the cool shit for your car and you want the car that's going to ride the best, it's all day Clutch Masters. Next up is you're going to be your ACT. After that, it's upgraded axles. This is only if you're pushing over 550 torque out of your motor. Well, actually to the wheels. So if you got it dynoed and you're pushing over 550, you kind of want to start looking at upgraded axles. But until then, I mean, if you guys have ever taken out the axles in this car, they're solid pieces of metal. They're very big in this car. So if you're pushing over 550, it's the only time you're gonna need them. Next up is limited slip differential. The limited slip differential, they make a bunch of them for this car, but it's kind of like all this other stuff. So if I was going to do the limited slip differential, I would go in and I would get the carbon synchros done, and I would probably actually send it off to Montoon and get the quick shift and the WPC surface treatment. The WPC surface treatment is kind of just like, you don't really need it. It just, they clean up your gears, and so they make them a little bit better, but for $600, it's not really worth it. But the quick shift for $200, I would totally be down for that. And then the carbon synchros are 100% a great thing to put in your car. I have the carbon synchros in my car and a limited slip differential. When I was getting mine done, Montoon didn't actually have the quick shift, and I didn't want the WPC surface treatment. So my third gear synchro went out, so that's why I did that. But and then you have all these like shift reducer brackets, shifter cable bushings, shifter cable bracket bushings, shifter bushings on shifter. All of those are just like these like little pieces of metal that you can buy online for like $30. It comes with probably like 8 to 10 of them in a pack, and you'll just look up like what's on the screen right there, and they'll come up, and all they do is they just make the shifting inside the car just feel way tighter, because actually the stock shifting in that car kind of feels like shit. Like you can't really feel like what gear you're in, but like when you upgrade all that stuff, you can really feel what gear you're in and where you're at with the clutch and all that kind of shit. So that's worth it if you're gonna do it. It's like $100, and it just completely transforms the way your car shifts. It feels phenomenal. And then also, if you want a short throw shifter, after the shifter reducer bracket, you can get it. I'm more of in the boat where I like to feel where I'm still in first and then feel like I'm going to second, but there's some people that just like it where it's just like they want to click it into first and click it into second, and there's not a lot of movement between it, and I get that, but to me it's just like I want to be able to feel myself in first, feel myself in second. So after the shifter reducer bracket, there's really no point for a short throw in my opinion, but some people do like that, so I get it why you would want that, so I put it on here. So after this, now we're going to start talking about the stages, and I'm going to go through and I'm just going to like list out the mods. I'm not going to really talk too much about like what I got going on for the like what they are, because I already went through and I kind of already talked about it. So I'm just going to blow through here and just sort of talk about like what we got going on, but not really at the same time. So anyway, starting off with stage 1, like if you just got the car, you're like, okay, what do I do this thing, man? It's like the first things I would do is I would get an air intake, I'd get the downpipe, I'd get an exhaust, I'd get your intake manifold spacer, I'd get your throttle body spacer, I'd get your supposed delete, I'd get yourself a brand new set of tires, I'd get yourself a set of step coulter spark plugs, and then those shifter tightening items, like I was just saying, the bushings and all that other shit, and then I'd also get yourself a tune. Montoon makes really good base tune for this car, and then after you're done with the base tune and you got some more shit to your cars, like stage 2, I would start to look at stratified tunes. Those are a little bit more expensive, where those are like $400 to get your car done. And then once you get up to like stage 3 and 4, then it's or more like stage 3, then it's like, okay, now I need to start looking at the Montoon Pro Tune, where it's like starting off at like $500. So there is different stages of tunes that you do need to do too. But once you after stage 3, you can just keep adding on to your tune that you already have from stratified. There are a lot of other companies that do tune. Like I know Edge Autosport tunes, but I use Stratified. I think they do a great job. They're very responsive. They've helped me out throughout this whole build, throughout my whole build. So I appreciate it. I appreciate them. So anyway, stage 2, I'd get an intercooler. We'll start with the intercooler. Get the intercooler piping, blow off valve, rear motor mount, both of your catch cans, get the coil pack. I'd get the snorkel just because it's just going to provide that little bit colder intake temperature right along you're getting your intercooler and intercooler piping, so it kind of just makes sense to throw that in there. And then you want to get some anti-roll bars because you don't want too much body play. You want that car to be able to really corner in the corners, you know what I mean? And then on the bottom, optional, short throw shifter. Next up for stage 3, this is the biggest one. So this is like where most people are gonna like be, where they're gonna like stop out at. There's not really a lot more to do after this unless you're like wanting to go full blown track cars. So this is like where most people are gonna be at, and like this is probably the stuff that you're gonna want to do to your car. So first up is turbo. We already talked about turbos. You know how I feel about turbos. There's about a million different options for turbos. Next up is turbo dump and wastegate. You have to get those with the turbo. The 4-bar map sensor, and then a lightweight harmonic balancer if you can find one, an oil pan baffle, a balance shaft delete, driver side motor mount, passenger side motor mount, oil cooler, braking upgrades, so like such as your front brakes, your rear brakes, your lines, all that kind of stuff, clutch, lightweight flywheel, high pressure fuel pump, and coil/lowering springs. So yeah, we already talked about coils and lowering springs. So yeah, this is pretty much your stage 3 build. You're going to be able to make around 400-ish horsepower at this level right here before you start getting up into stage 4. This is like your 400 horsepower build, while like stage 2 is probably you're getting close to 280, and then this one's going to build you up to probably 260. This one will probably build you up to 280, 290, and then this one's going to be putting you over 400 because of the turbo. And then once after this, it's like you do all this stuff, and then it's like upgraded transmission, low pressure fuel pump, 4-port injection, upgraded direct injection injectors. This is anything over probably 550 wheel. And then stage 5 after that is like 600 plus. So stage 3 is done. Stage 4 is your limited slip differential, upgraded transmission, so your synchros, quick shift, WPC, all that kind of stuff I was just talking about. 4-port injection, upgraded direct injection injectors, radiator upgrade, built head, and low pressure fuel pump. So built head consists of springs, valves, cams, all that kind of stuff to put your head together to make it built head. Stage 5, again, 600 horsepower range. Rods, pistons. I put these on stage 5 because these don't have a really good home, because this, to me, it's just like this really depends on how you want to go with your build with the rods and pistons, because I could totally see somebody putting this at stage 3, while I could also see somebody putting it at stage 5. So I put them at stage 5 just because, in my opinion, if you blow the motor, it's the only time to replace the rods and pistons, because you're already going to have to pull the motor out anyway. So yeah, after that, stage 5, it's like the intake manifold I was saying at the beginning. It's just this like last thing that just you don't really have anything else to do. 2-port injection. This is when you're over 600, dude, and you need that extra fuel because the low pressure, the high pressure, all that other shit just isn't working out for you. And then the surge tanks, same thing. And then last but not least is upgraded axles, because once you need upgraded axles, you're going to be pushing over, probably over 700 horsepower at that point. So upgraded axles, you're a long ways away. That's why I put those last. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is a very long video. This video will all be timestamped. If you guys could drop a like, that'd be great. Help it out with the algorithm a little bit. I did put a bunch of time into this, so it would help me a lot. Thank you. Keep watching the videos. Have a good day. Later.